Hey, I'd like to take just a moment of your time to address something that I'm sure is on a lot of your minds. In these trying times, with human monsters far outweighing anything that more traditional scary creatures can hope to achieve, there's a lot of angst going on around the larger community. Even a gelatinous, brain-sucking blob can't hope to compete with whatever that orange thing is staining the floor of the Oval Office. Well, as much as we'd like to, your friends here at Sinister Minutes simply can't do much about the onslaught. But we can help those who are most deeply affected. Our friends, the cryptids, the old-school monsters, the mythological creatures. Introducing new Sinister Minutes Monstrous Method Therapy. Are you a vampire plagued with guilt over your feeding habits? Or perhaps wondering how you're supposed to compete with a Homeland Security advisor who not only resembles the original Nosferatu, but can so quickly drain blood from thousands? Or maybe you're a zombie, awakened into a new existence that doesn't allow you to express any individuality, part of a collective simply moving forward in search of brains. But you're filled with angst about putting on a red hat and going with the flow. Well, we get it. Even werewolves today have issues. If it's not personal anger management, it's a fear of being shot by a crazed puppy killer in an ice uniform. Sinister Minutes Monstrous Method Therapy moves past the usual bigotry faced by so many of our loyal listeners when approaching mainstream counselors. Our expert staff will present a caring, open environment for you to express your deepest concerns, and no judgment will ever be passed regarding blood-stained clothes, putrefaction aromas, or body counts by any definition. Sinister Minutes Monstrous Method Therapy. Listening, but never judging. Sinister Minutes Monstrous Method Therapy is not affiliated with any legitimate branch of psychotherapy. Any advice taken is as likely as not to result in horrific outcomes. These may or may not be desirable. Sinister Minutes reserves the right to refuse service to any creature deemed too monstrous. This may include members of Congress, commentators, and influencers. Funds provided to Sinister Minutes will be carefully distributed to the producers of the Sinister Minutes podcast for their use in procuring goods and services deemed necessary for their own psychological well-being. Got a minute or two? We have a way to make it not okay. Welcome to Sinister Minutes. I'm your host, writer and storyteller Kurt Homan. Next to me is the master of macabre musical musings, the maestro of mood, Tim Parker. Together, let us take you on a journey into the dark heart of disturbing. Sinister Minutes. It's not okay. Sinister Minutes features tales that include disturbing content. That's intentional because, like the podcast itself, the creators here at Sinister Minutes are really not okay. Now, having said that, realize that content featured on this podcast may include descriptions of some pretty horrific things at times. It is a dark fiction podcast, after all, so we hope that you are anticipating some degree of abuse and blood, of harm and death, of suicide, of sex, of injury, of mutilation, of pain, and certainly some profanity. Maybe a little bit of screaming, occasionally some threats, a bit of torture, a bit of victim blaming. And as always, at some point, we're sure that you're going to encounter some witches. Don't say we didn't warn you. Welcome to Sinister Minutes Season 2, Episode 18. Today's story is the first chapter of a longer work, but one that we think stands on its own. which is good because there's a big open space that falls pretty quickly after this chapter, one that's only going to get filled if I can extract it from the dark recesses of my brain. You want to come take a look around in my brain? You do that. The last folks who tried were never heard from again. Anyway, this tale, with a working title of Marked, is all about a guy who decides to sell his soul in front of a live audience. After that, it's time for a bit more soul. A musical interlude from Mr. Parker with a 7 fugue piece called Cortege. Thanks as always for listening, for supporting what we're doing, for sharing Sinister Minutes with anybody who still talks to you, for hitting the like icon wherever you listen to us, for subscribing so you don't miss a single one of our delectable episodes. And please visit us at sinisterminutes.com, where you'll find links to all the episodes, places to subscribe, juicy bits about us, and even a submission form. You know, if you've written a tale and want us to consider narrating it on the show. As Tim and I move just past our collective birthday, we've noticed that as we mature, we are only growing more and more not okay. Marked, Chapter 1. Written and narrated by Kurt Homan. 6 black candles flicker and dance, and acrid smoke from a mixture of wormwood and sulfur fills the room. I kneel before the altar, arms stretched high overhead, spine arched slightly back. Malcolm, I call upon your favor. Inspect the pact I have written and signed in my own life's blood. Grant me the boon of my earthly desire, and I offer you my service in return. My expression must look nothing short of crazed, and sweat's beating up on my forehead, but that all feeds my image. I'm Zane, grown-up punk with a dyed black faux hawk, grayscale tats across my chest and arms barely covered by a leather vest, and a dozen rings stuck in my ears, lips, and eyebrows. Our altar is a small end table. I found it on the side of the road, brought it home, and draped a dark purple cloth over it. On top, centered within the candles, is a round piece of glass I painted on the backside with high-gloss black paint. A black mirror, just the thing for invoking demons. Of course, there's a razor-sharp dagger sitting on the edge of the mirror. One of the cameras move, breaking my concentration. It's only for a moment, but from everything I've read, the entity I'm dealing with has a reputation for taking advantage of any lapse in focus. Not that I believe for a second I'm actually conjuring a demon. I gave up on Jesus about the same time as Santa. There's no way I'm putting any stock in some ancient demon, one nobody's even heard of, rising up out of hell to do my bidding. In truth, it doesn't matter what I believe. It's about the audience. It's them who need to believe, or at least keep watching. Weeks of prep, more weeks spent poring over translations of all those ancient books, the Grimorium Verum, the Clavicles, the Lesser Key of Solomon, each filled with riddles, tests, and in the end instructions on how to accomplish the very thing I don't believe can be accomplished. Hours and days of effort, sliced up, cut down, and converted to minutes of video. If this show takes off, my life takes off with it. All we need is something to create buzz, to get people watching. Once our audience finds us, they'll dig back into our earlier episodes, which is cool. We made sure to perform every step by the book. All the spiritual types I consulted were in agreement. Whatever I do or don't believe, this next step's deadly serious. I mean, I'll act serious. I can act, after all. I just hope something actually happens. "Roll forward whenever you're ready," says Jillian from somewhere in the shadows behind the cameras. This whole sell your soul in front of the world idea was hers to begin with, and she's been top-notch as director and producer throughout the whole process. Also editor, writer, and more than a few times she's worked a camera when it was just the two of us. Tonight, though, she's got everybody on deck. 2 people on camera, 1 on sound, and her. I hope they're not expecting me to feed them all after we wrap. I nod toward where I heard her voice. "No more interruptions from this point forward." I'm headed into some deep trance work, and sure as hell don't need somebody going off to take a piss in the middle of taping. "All yours," she says. I take a deep inhale, hold it for a long count, then slowly let it out. I repeat the pattern, counting the inhales and exhales like there's a steady metronome ticking off the beats inside my brain. I pick up the dagger from the altar and lay the edge across my thumb. I'm still squeamish about this part, so I close my eyes as I draw it across. I speak the words I've rehearsed 100 times, a mix of Hebrew and Latin, no less foreign to me than the first time I read them. Barely notice the pain as deep red blood wells up and I squeeze, forcing a few drops to fall from my thumb to the center of the black mirror dominating the table. I gaze into the glass, the dark shadow of my reflected face broken only by the blood splashed on it, and continue to chant the words. Invocation completed, I keep staring into the mirror. My brain goes fuzzy. I'm cold sober, so I wonder if Jillian slipped something extra into that awful incense I keep inhaling. My reflection shifts and swirls, then grows wider until it fills the glass. A split appears in the center, a thin band of gray between ovals of blackness, as though the shadowy reflection of my face has split in two. The left half of the dark image becomes defined, clearer than my own reflection. A second face, or something like a face, is next to mine, so close I can feel the heat emanating from it. It takes all my will to focus, to not turn to my left and experience firsthand the thing next to me reflected in the mirror. Black pits resembling eyes are mismatched, one higher than the other, and the nose is like the snout of a wild hog. Bumps protrude from the surface of skin that glistens as though smeared with grease. The stench worsens, more like road-killed skunk than burning sulfur, and I swallow the bile rising in my throat. Nothing there, my rational mind tells me with false assurance. There's nothing there. Get the fuck out of here, scream my primal senses. In the black mirror, the thing pulls a little further away and turns to face me. In profile, I see a mouth opening wide, impossibly wide, the top of the head almost separating from the jaw. I freeze, waiting. "The pact," says a voice as smooth as Miles Davis at midnight, a voice that could not possibly emanate from the hideous thing in the mirror.
"You have brought the pact?"
I hold up the scroll, tightly rolled and tied, and realize how badly my hands are shaking. Everything I've done for the last few weeks has been focused on creating that scroll. I made the paper from my own clothing, shirts that I cut into tiny bits, boiled, crushed, pressed flat, and watched fall into shreds the first 3 times I tried. The ink is a mixture. My own blood, herbs I gathered under a full moon at midnight, and acorn shells I ground by hand. The string holding it closed is woven from my own hair. The scroll is plucked from my fingertips. In spite of what my rational mind tells me, I know there's no turning back.
Accepted,
says the voice, and the thing in the mirror is gone, leaving me to stare at the utter lack of any reflection, blackness filling the void where my face should be. I look up from the mirror. Where am I? Who are these people? Who am I? Hey, Zane, a woman's voice. You back with us? Jillian. Her name's Jillian. I must be Zane. What? Well, yeah, you didn't, my brain knows the words I want to say. My mouth refuses to form them. You okay? She asks. Everything's coming back to me now, and my mouth's starting to work along with my brain again. He was right here. It all happened so fast. Fast? She comes closer, hair tucked under a behemoth ball cap, oversized Black Sabbath t-shirt flapping. You've been staring at that mirror for almost an hour. I shake my head hard, trying to clear the fog. No way. Are you high? What? No. I remember then, thinking about whatever I'd been inhaling. You didn't add anything funny to the incense, did you? Oh, hell no. You're weird enough all on your own. Jillian pinches the bridge of her nose, nodding. Are you telling me the spirit, demon, whatever, was here? Yeah. She turns to the crew. They're all still hidden in shadow. Any of you see anything? Hear anything? 3 negative responses, plus at least 1 stifled yawn. I shake my head. I might have been in a trance, might have had trouble talking or remembering who I was a few minutes ago, but I'm back now, and I remember everything. Can we watch the playback? Jillian shrugs. Might as well get some use out of that footage. She turns to her crew. Everybody upload, then we can call this a wrap for tonight. So I wasn't going to have to feed them. That's good, because it would have taken a loaves and fishes miracle to make that happen, and I already mentioned my thoughts about Jesus. Then again, in light of what I saw tonight, or at least what I think I saw, I might have to revisit that particular Messiah. An hour later, I push away from Jillian's laptop. We've got a dull hour of me kneeling motionless in front of the altar. I expect to see something happen when I pull the pact out of my vest pocket, but the video shows I never did that. My pact is still right where I placed it before beginning the rite, still bound with that stupid hair string, the one that took me hours to weave. It looks like it was all a crazy hallucination. I got so worked up from all those weeks of preparation that my brain wanted something to happen. It was all a trip, a crazy flashback. But damn, it sure felt real. We can't run this as our big climax, says Jillian. That's for sure. I'm thinking we do like the big guys do. You know, a dramatization. I shake my head. You mean fake it? After all we've gone through, you want to paste in some guy in a red suit holding a pitchfork? You got any better ideas? It's not far from what people expect to see, she says. We have to give our audience... I'm pissed. Look, I might have just made a pact with a demon, or maybe an angel. Who the hell knows? Could be my eternal soul is up for grabs. Jillian stabs a finger at me. Eternal soul? You don't believe a word of that bullshit, and you know it. She sits back. You sold your soul when you answered my ad, probably a few more times long before you even met me. As for what we have here, her fingers on the screen. There's some decent stuff here, but if we don't dress it up, any audience we've built these past few weeks is gonna lynch us. And if that happens, nobody, especially you, is getting paid. Fine. I can clearly see my landlord's angry face in my mind's eye. Do what you gotta do. I'll play my part. Jillian smirks. Let me call the guy with the pitchfork. Later, after everything's packed up and I'm on my own, I look again at the black mirror that held my attention for so long. I'm still in there, shrouded in darkness. Stupid. The hell was I expecting? I pull the little scroll out of my pocket again, and this time I pick at the braided cord until the knot falls away and the scroll uncurls. It's blank. I stare at it, not blinking. I spent hours painstakingly dipping the quill pen in the little bottle of ink I'd crafted, slowly and carefully tracing out each line to form letters, each letter to form words, each word to form the entirety of the pact. Hours of time that got boiled down to minutes of video. I'm not asking for the impossible. I'm not ashamed to admit I want fame and fortune, commercial success. In exchange, I agree to do what's asked of me, within limits. The terms were specific. In spite of my skepticism, I still studied the classic tales, got to know the errors of every Faustian adventurer, and took them all into account. My pact clearly laid out the limits of what I would and would not be willing to do, and at the same time the extent of what I desired. I slaved over the language, even seeking out a lawyer friend who gave me some long, odd looks, but nonetheless agreed to examine the terms. And now, what? I followed the advice of the metaphysical coach Jillian had enlisted and destroyed the draft copy of the pact. The one I worked from when transcribing to the scroll. The same scroll I now hold in my hand where all those carefully crafted words no longer appear. It was a silly idea. I never believed in any of this. So why do I feel such a loss now? Is it because I spent all those weeks going through all those meticulous steps? Jillian will get some good video out of it, especially once she adds the fire and brimstone. And my commercial success might even double, from 100 viewers to 2. I flick out the lights and reach for the door handle. And there's the word again. Right there in my ears, in my head, the last word from that sweet, smooth voice that crept up from the darkest depths of the pit.
Accepted.
Cortege, a 7 fugue piece composed and performed by Tim Parker. Sinister Minutes is presented by Kurt Hohman and Tim Parker. The musical score was composed and performed by Tim Parker. Our production team consists of Kurt Hohman and Tim Parker. On behalf of everyone here at the Sinister Minutes podcast, namely Kurt Hohman and Tim Parker, we thank you for listening, for joining us as we explore all the ways in which we are not okay. This audio program is copyright by Kurt Hohman and Tim Parker under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.